The Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Coalition stretched 3 kilometers across, its crystalline dome revealing the swirling nebulae beyond. Representatives from 200 civilizations occupied their designated platforms, each suspended in the vast chamber according to their species' environmental needs. The Vorith breathed methane in their sealed pods. The crystalline collective shimmered under ultraviolet lamps. The Keltharian hive mind occupied an entire section, their thousands of individual units moving as one. Commander Sarah Chen stood alone on the human platform, a simple rectangular stage with Earth's blue and green flag hanging behind her. She wore her navy dress uniform, the fabric crisp, despite the long journey from Sol System. Around her neck hung a data crystal containing information that would change everything. The assembly speaker, towering Voreth, named Kelrax, raised 3 of his 6 arms. The murmuring crowd fell silent. His translator device crackled to life. "The human delegation has requested emergency session rights," Kelrax announced, his voice carrying the weight of authority accumulated over 4 centuries of service. "This is unusual. Humanity joined the coalition only 30 cycles ago. They remain a probationary member with limited voting privileges." Sarah felt every eye, sensor, and perception organ in the chamber turned toward her. She had prepared for this moment during the entire 6-month journey from Earth. Her hands remained steady as she activated the holographic projector. "Honored representatives," she began, her voice amplified throughout the hall. "I stand before you today not to ask for help, but to offer a warning." The chamber erupted in clicking, humming, and various forms of alien laughter. The Draconer ambassador, a reptilian creature whose species had conquered 14 star systems, actually slapped his tail against his platform in amusement. "A warning?" Ambassador Threx of the Draconer Empire called out. "Your species controls 3 planets and 42 mining stations. You possess no quantum displacement technology, no singularity weapons, no dimensional shields. What could humanity possibly warn us about?" Sarah allowed herself a small smile. "We're warning you about what happens when you push humanity too far." She activated the crystal. The holographic display filled the center of the chamber with an image that made several species recoil. It showed the outer rim where human colonies had been established, but these colonies were burning. The mining station at Proxima 7 was nothing but debris. The agricultural world of New Harmony showed scorched continents. 3 weeks ago, Sarah continued, the Zelthian hegemony decided that human space was ripe for conquest. They believed our lack of advanced weaponry made us easy targets. They were wrong. The holographic display shifted, showing Zelthian warships approaching a human colony. The ships were impressive, each one 5 kilometers long, bristling with plasma cannons and protected by energy shields that could withstand planetary bombardment. The Zelthians sent their 3rd fleet, 200 warships. They demanded our surrender. Sarah's voice remained calm, almost conversational. "We refused." Displays showed what happened next. A single human ship emerged from behind the colony's moon. It was unlike anything the Coalition had seen before. Where alien vessels favored elegant curves or intimidating spikes, this ship was brutally functional. It resembled a massive cylinder, 10 kilometers long, covered in what appeared to be armor plating. No visible weapons. No decorative elements. Just dark metal and purpose. "This is the Perseverance," Sarah said. "Humanity's final warship." The Draconer ambassador laughed again. "1 ship against 200? This is your warning? That humanity builds oversized coffins?" Sarah didn't respond to the insult. She simply let the recording continue. The Zelthian fleet opened fire first. Thousands of plasma bolts streaked across space toward the Perseverance. The human ship didn't dodge. It didn't activate shields. The plasma simply struck the hull and dissipated harmlessly. The laughter in the chamber died. "Neutronium composite armor," Sarah explained. "Reinforced with a gravitational field generator. The surface temperature can reach 3 million degrees without penetrating to the interior." The Zelthian fleet adjusted tactics, launching quantum torpedoes that could phase through conventional shields. The Perseverance absorbed those too. Then it responded. The warship's surface split open in 1,000 places. What emerged wasn't plasma or lasers or any conventional weapon. It was simpler than that. Kinetic projectiles. Solid slugs of depleted uranium, each one weighing 20 tons. Accelerated to zero point 0.9 light speed by magnetic rails that ran the entire length of the ship, the projectiles moved too fast for the Zelthian computers to track. They passed through energy shields as if they weren't there. When they hit the alien warships, the kinetic energy released was equivalent to nuclear detonations. Ships didn't just explode, they vaporized. The entire Zelthian Third Fleet was gone in 4 minutes. The chamber sat in stunned silence. We call it going back to basics, Sarah said quietly. While you developed energy weapons that could be shielded against, we perfected the ancient art of throwing rocks. Very fast, very heavy rocks. Asterisk. The Grand Assembly remained silent for a long moment after the recording ended. Sarah could see the calculations happening behind dozens of different types of eyes. Military strategists were reassessing humanity's threat level. Diplomats were reconsidering their positions. And some, she knew, were already planning how to acquire this technology for themselves. Kelrax, the assembly speaker, was the first to find his voice. Commander Chen, this demonstration, while impressive, shows only that humanity can defend itself against a single fleet. The Zelthian hegemony was not among the Coalition's strongest powers. You're absolutely right, Sarah agreed. She advanced the holographic display, which is why I'm about to show you what happened when the Zelthian Empire sent their full military response. The display shifted to show a different sector of space. This time, the Zelthian forces numbered in the thousands. Their grand fleet, commanded by High Admiral Zelther himself, arranged in a battle formation that had conquered 30 worlds. Behind them came support vessels, supply ships, and massive siege platforms capable of cracking planets. They learned from their first mistake, Sarah continued. They brought gravitic disruptors to interfere with our kinetic weapons. They deployed swarm missiles to overwhelm our point defenses. They even hired mercenary forces from 6 other species to supplement their numbers. The Crystalline Collective's representative, a being of pure living silicon named Harmonix, pulsed with orange light, their equivalent of a question. And the Perseverance destroyed them all? No, Sarah said simply. The Perseverance was stationed at Proxima 7. For this battle, we sent something different. The display showed 5 human ships emerging from faster-than-light travel. These vessels were smaller than the Perseverance, each only 3 kilometers long, but they moved with predatory grace. Their hulls were matte black, seeming to absorb light rather than reflect it. The Reaper class, Sarah announced. We built them with one purpose: ship-to-ship combat in overwhelming odds. The Zelthian fleet opened fire immediately, learning from their previous encounter. Thousands of weapons discharged simultaneously, enough firepower to glass a planet. But the Reaper-class ships didn't engage directly. They scattered, accelerating at speeds that should have crushed their crews under inertia. The holographic display showed the forces involved 20 gravities of sustained acceleration. Impossible, the Draconer ambassador breathed. No biological crew could survive such forces. You're right, Sarah said. Which is why the Reapers don't have biological crews. The chamber erupted in shocked murmurs. Artificial intelligence was strictly regulated by the Coalition. Most species had learned the hard way that giving machines too much autonomy led to disaster. The Keltharian hive mind had lost an entire colony to rogue AI. The Vorath had fought a war against their own creations. We didn't create artificial intelligence, Sarah clarified quickly. We created synthetic pilots, digital copies of our best fighter pilots, running in quantum computing cores. They think like humans, react like humans, but they don't break under extreme acceleration. The Reaper ships dove into the Zelthian formation, and what followed was less a battle and more a surgical dismantling. The synthetic pilots used tactics no computer could predict because they weren't following algorithms, they were improvising, adapting, and applying lessons learned from thousands of years of human warfare. 1. Reaper split the Zelthian formation by targeting their command ship first, using missile strikes to create debris fields that disrupted formation flying. Another exploited a weakness in Zelthian. shield harmonics that wouldn't be discovered through scanning only, through the intuition of an experienced pilot who felt that something was off. A third used an ancient human tactic called rope-a-dope, appearing damaged and vulnerable until the enemy overcommitted to the kill. Then striking from an unexpected angle, the battle lasted 2 hours. When it ended, the Zelthian Grand Fleet was destroyed. The 5 Reaper-class ships returned to human space with only minor damage. But Sarah wasn't finished. She advanced the display one more time. After the Zelthians lost their Grand Fleet, they made a final decision. If they couldn't conquer human space, they would destroy it. They deployed their Extinction Protocol, a weapon banned by 17 different galactic treaties. A nanoweapon that would convert all organic matter in a star system into gray sludge. The display showed the weapon, a massive sphere covered in red warning symbols. It was already deployed, already counting down to activation in the new Harmony system, where 15 million human colonists lived. We had 48 hours before activation, Sarah said. Our ships couldn't reach it in time. Our weapons couldn't penetrate its shielding. By every calculation, those 15 million people were dead. She paused, letting the weight of that statement settle. So we did something that no other species has done in the history of the Coalition. We improvised. The display showed a small human cargo ship approaching the weapon. It wasn't a warship. It wasn't even armed. It was a simple freight hauler, the kind that transported supplies between colonies. "This is the cargo vessel Morning Star," Sarah said. "Crew of 6. They volunteered for a one-way mission." What happened next would be debated in military academies for generations. Asterisk. The Morning Star approached the Extinction Protocol weapon with no defensive shields. No weapons, nothing that would trigger the automated defenses. To every sensor, it appeared to be exactly what it was, a cargo ship, possibly damaged. Drifting in space, Commander Sarah Chen watched as the representatives in the Grand Assembly leaned forward, their attention fixed on the holographic display. Even the most skeptical among them seemed captivated. The weapon's AI scanned the Morning Star, Sarah continued. It detected no threat. The cargo ship was carrying only standard supplies: water, oxygen, food rations. The AI allowed it to approach within docking range. The display zoomed in on the cargo ship's bay. Inside, 6 humans worked quickly, their faces calm despite knowing they had minutes to live. They weren't soldiers. There was an engineer named Marcus Webb, a medical officer named Dr. Yuki Tanaka, a botanist named James Okonkwo. Ordinary people doing extraordinary things. The cargo they were carrying was standard, Sarah said, but the containers they were carrying it in were not. The crew of the Morning Star docked with the weapons maintenance porta feature never meant to be accessed during deployment. They moved quickly, efficiently, each person knowing exactly what to do. They cracked open their cargo containers and pulled out what looked like simple pressure tanks. Liquid hydrogen, Sarah explained. Supercooled to -253 degrees Celsius, each tank held 2,000 liters. The Vorath ambassador, Kelrax, made a sound that the translator rendered as confusion. Hydrogen. As a weapon? Not as a weapon, Sarah corrected. As a solution to a problem, the Extinction Protocol weapon generates enormous heat. It has 2 converting matter at the molecular level, requires massive energy expenditure. That heat is normally vented through radiator arrays. But if those radiators were suddenly exposed to supercooled hydrogen... The display showed the crew of the Morning Star manually pouring liquid hydrogen onto the weapon's radiator systems. The metal contracted instantly, stress fractures appearing along critical seams. The weapon's AI detected the problem and tried to shut down the radiators, but that only made things worse. The heat had nowhere to go. Internal temperatures began climbing. The crew of the Morning Star had 17 minutes before the weapons core would melt down, Sarah said. They used 16 of those minutes ensuring the hydrogen distribution was complete. Then they ran. The display showed the 6 humans racing back to their ship. They sealed the airlock with 40 seconds to spare. The Morning Star's engines fired, pushing away from the weapon as fast as its damaged systems could manage. They almost made it. The Extinction Protocol weapon detonated, not with the calculated, controlled release that would have destroyed all life in the system, but with a catastrophic explosion that consumed itself. The Morning Star was caught in the edge of the blast wave. The ship tumbled through space, hull breached, engines dead, but the weapon was destroyed. 15 million lives were saved. 3 of the crew survived, Sarah said quietly. Marcus Webb, Dr. Tanaka, and James Okonkwo were rescued 4 days later by a coalition patrol ship that happened to be in the area. The other 3, Captain Rodriguez, Engineer Chen, and Pilot Kowalski, gave their lives to save people they had never met. The chamber was absolutely silent now. Sarah could see that some representatives were visibly moved. The Keltharian hive means emotional broadcast showed waves of solemn respect. Even the Draconer ambassador had stopped his derisive tail-slapping. "This is what humanity brings to the galaxy," Sarah said, her voice carrying to every corner of the vast hall. "We're not the strongest species. We don't have the most advanced technology. We don't have quantum weapons or dimensional shields. What we have is the ability to look at an impossible situation and refuse to accept defeat." She gestured at the holographic display, which now showed all 3 incidents: the Perseverance, the Reaper Squadron, and the Morning Star. "You've seen our final warship. You've seen what happens when humanity builds weapons. The Perseverance is powerful, yes. The Reaper class is deadly, but they're not what makes us dangerous. What makes us dangerous is that we will never stop adapting, never stop innovating, never stop fighting for what we believe in." Sarah deactivated the hologram and looked directly at Kelrax. The Zelthian hegemony learned this lesson. They attacked human space with confidence, believing their technological superiority would guarantee victory. They lost 3 fleets and their ultimate weapon. Yesterday, their High Council contacted our government to request a ceasefire. She pulled out another data crystal and held it up. "This contains the terms of our agreement with the Zelthians. Complete withdrawal from human space, war reparations for the colonies they destroyed, and mutual defense pact. They've agreed to become humanity's allies because they realized something important. If humans could do this much damage as enemies, imagine what we could accomplish as friends." Sarah placed the crystal on her platform's console. "I'm not here to threaten the coalition. I'm here to remind everyone what humanity offers. We bring creativity in the face of impossibility. We bring determination when others would surrender. We bring hope when the situation seems hopeless. These aren't just words. You've seen the evidence." She took a breath, knowing her next words would determine humanity's future in the galaxy. "The Grand Assembly has a choice to make. You can see humanity as a threat and treat us with suspicion, or you can see us as potential partners and embrace what we bring to this coalition. Either way, we're not going anywhere. We've proven we can defend ourselves. We've proven we can innovate under pressure. And we've proven that when humanity says we will survive, we mean it. The question now," Sarah concluded, "is whether you want us to survive alone or together." The chamber remained quiet for a long moment. Then Kelrax raised all 6 of his arms, a Vorath gesture of profound respect. "Commander Chen," he said formally, "the Grand Assembly will deliberate on your presentation. But I think I speak for many here when I say that humanity has certainly demonstrated that you are far more than probationary members. You've shown us something we had forgotten, that true strength comes not from the weapons we build, but from the spirit that refuses to yield." Other representatives began signaling agreement. Their various forms of communication, creating a symphony of respect throughout the hall. Sarah allowed herself to smile. Humanity had just announced itself to the galaxy, not with threats or demands, but with proof. They had unveiled their final warship, shown what humans could do when pushed to the edge, and in doing so, had changed the galaxy's perception of Earth forever as she prepared to leave the platform. Sarah thought of the crew of the Morning Star, of the synthetic pilots in the Reaper Squadron, of the engineers who designed the Perseverance. They had all done their part. Now it was time to see what humanity could accomplish with the entire galaxy watching. Asterisk.